Hello, everybody. How was everybody's Christmas? And, well, Merry Christmas. Hello. How's things? How has your, I suppose in this case, weekend been? What have you been up to? Again with the Thursday. Oh dear. Yeah, another week gets yeeted into the annals of history, the anus of history, more like. Um, yeah, how's things? Hello Luca, hello Ish, and hello John. How you guys doing? How's things? Another week, a little bit older and all that, waiting 3 to 4 more weeks. Then I'm getting myself a nice new 700cc bike. Gonna be better then. How are you? Hello. I am early. Well, I was sitting here anyway, so I thought, why not jump in and say hi? Um, yeah, how's my week been? All right. Had Christmas. That was all right. Saw some friends. It was good. Um, yeah, not too bad. Um, hello. Scott, looking at a reference 1700 XTX, but only the reference will fit in the NZXT H1. Is the Sapphire reference only, and who stocks the reference 1700 XTX in the UK. So I didn't think that AMD actually sold their reference cooler design. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure AMD still only gives the actual reference cards to press, which I didn't get one. The rest of them are all the add-in board partner cards, but I think Overclockers UK stock the Sapphire cards for sure. So you can try there. I'm fairly certain that people like Scan will likely stock them as well, so you can try them. Box.co.uk, lots of options. For a Brit, all right is an American awesome. Yeah, pretty much. I've got a Western Digital 850X 1 TB, SN 850X 1 TB NVMe Gen 4, but sometimes runs on Gen 3. I have no idea why. What CPU and motherboard do you run it with, and which slot is it in your motherboard? Eating a 75p M&S cake. Nice. I didn't think that anything sold on M&S for less than like £2. Hello Simon. How was your Christmas? And hello Zig. How you doing, man? How's things? How was your Christmas? And is anyone doing anything for New Year's? I guess it's kind of a Hugmanay's the Scottish one, but yeah. 5950X and X570S master slot 1 with 2 other 980 Pros in 2 and 3. Right, so slot 1 is direct to the CPU, so that should be fine. Technically, you have enough PCIe lanes, but maybe I don't necessarily know how well every single use case has been tested, so I don't know whether 3 Gen 4 SSDs in all of the slots running at full speed have been tested very much. I'm on beta BIOS. Could that be it? So that's kind of what I'm thinking, is that sounds like a motherboard, like the fact that if it was just one drive on its own, I'd be more inclined to say that it might be the drive or something like that. But if you've got 3 Gen 4 drives running in every slot, there is more chance of that being a like BIOS bug or something. Gonna move the old camera a little bit that way. Yeah, there we go. Hoonanny, no, not quite. Hugmanay. Mike, wish me luck. I'm about to upgrade my encoding machine from a 3700X to a 5950X. Nice. Ish makes a good point. Make sure your BIOS is updated before you take the old chip out. But otherwise, yeah, nice. Congrats. That's a pretty decent upgrade for encoding. New Year's probably like Xmas, beer and films from bed. Nice. How about you? Not really much for me personally, actually. So, we'll go back to non-beta and see if it changes. Fair play. I've already flashed a compatible BIOS and I've got a backup on a flash drive. Then you're all sorted and ready to go. Are you sticking with the same cooler or are you upgrading the cooler as well? But you have a 3700X, so technically I think that is the same overall CDP, so shouldn't be that big of a deal. So yeah, nice. Ba 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 ba. I don't think I missed anything. Trying to read up the chat, but yeah, I think that's that. I've got a 240mm closed loop liquid cooler on the 3700X, so it should be fine. Fair play, yeah. That's decent enough. John, so the fluffy hoodie is a live stream motif now. Well, it's only a live stream motif while it's winter, because it's cold, and electricity and gas are expensive, and so I'd rather keep myself warm with a hoodie than warm up the entire house an extra couple of degrees just so that we can be, you know, more comfortable without a hoodie on, so is it normal for the AMD power plan to not show up with the 5950X? So I think that AMD called that for the 5th gen chips. I think that was the case. It might even be called for the 3rd gen as well. Basically, I think they worked with Microsoft to implement all of the features basically that they had in the like Ryzen power plan into just standard Windows power management, and so it became obsolete, not necessary. You don't need to do it. You don't need to install it. You can just use standard ones. Lies, you look spiffy in it and you know it. Why, thank you. That's just comfy. I mean, you know, I still have the exact same t-shirt on underneath, so yeah. Shit's free advertising. Wait, if is it free if the promoter is the seller? Never mind. Super comfy hoodie. Exactly. No worries, Alex. Yeah. I should make it clear, I won't have a video on Monday. I think it's on Tuesday, or might even be Wednesday. I think it's the 3rd. Tuesday. I will have Monday's video will go up on Tuesday. You'll find out why. Can't tell you. I don't trust Amazon now as I bought an Asus 3060 Ti tough. The box had been opened and the card didn't work. Was that a brand new purchase, or will that was it from the like Amazon Marketplace seller? Was it meant to be new, basically? Was it open box, B stock, whatever, or was it, was it meant to be brand new? Meant to be brand new. Fair. Well, in that case, are you able to return it? Obviously, it's a hassle having bought something that doesn't work, especially if it's been misrepresentedly sold. But Amazon does generally pride themselves in being very good on the customer service side, so hopefully that will be able to resolve the problem, even if it does take a little bit longer to get it sorted. The main purpose is encoding H.264.5 to AV1 using Handbrake. I passed on the 1300K for the 5950X, think I made the right choice. So, they're both great chips. The fact that you potentially, you already had the motherboard, right? So, being able to just upgrade the CPU is great. It's a great benefit of the platform, as it were. And so you're saving costs in doing that, and the the actual encoding performance in something like Handbrake is likely very similar in the grand scheme of things. So for the extra money that you would have spent to get a new motherboard, possibly get a new cooler, or at very least buy the cooler mounting bracket kit because it's not the same, all that sort of stuff, it wouldn't have been worth the money. Lone Tech says insignificant difference, but the 1300K is marginally faster at AV1 encoding. Fair. Still deciding whether to go 1300K or 1750X from a new build. Any suggestions? So Mike has a great question. What are you using the system for? I can't remember. I remember you upgraded to 5950X for a bit. Hello Joe, how you doing, man? How's things? I'm fine enough. Have a good Christmas. Yeah, it was alright. How was yours? I appreciated the review of the XG271QG, the 240Hz 1440p monitor. Only issue I have with it is whenever my monitor goes to sleep and I wake my computer, I have to turn the monitor on and off for it to display. Any ideas? Or off and on, as you say. So, can you clarify which input you're using? Is it HDMI or DisplayPort? Also, checking the monitor settings to see if there's any eco modes. And if you can maybe switch to one of the gaming modes, that might be better. In my experience with it, which is relatively limited in the grand scheme of things, it's not feasible for me to put it on my desk and use it for 3 months before I do a review, right? But in my relatively limited experience with it, that wasn't an issue that I had. That kind of sounds like either a firmware issue or a G-Sync module issue, because if I remember rightly, that's a G-Sync specific monitor, which means it has a G-Sync module instead of a standard scaler. So maybe see if there's a firmware update available for it, and that you can do the firmware update, because sometimes you can't, for your model. And if not, maybe see if you can get them to check, support to check or something, because that does sound like something is not working right. But if I had to guess, it's probably something to do with the fact that it is a G-Sync monitor instead of a FreeSync monitor or adaptive sync monitor. It was good, quiet but good. It was a bit strange my dad not being there, but the kids made it all worth it. Nice. Well, once again, my and I'm sure our condolences, and I'm glad that you had a good time. Anyway. I'm eagerly anticipating the 7000 series with 3D cache to see how it goes. I think a lot of us are, because the 5800X 3D is still a pretty big kind of barnstormer, especially in the gaming realm. So for for the newer architecture to have that, I think that's going to be pretty interesting. I generally don't think that the limitation of the what do you call it no overclocking is that big a deal for the vast majority of people, because the vast majority of people don't overclock, and I'm pretty sure that you can still do precision boost overdrive tweaks, because it still does boost and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure that you can do that, which realistically is the way that the majority of people tune Ryzen chips right now. So yeah. Um, Ish, I think Goats is kind of like sick. It's part of their lexicon. I'm at present running a 6600 XT with an R5 5600X. Which would you upgrade first? So, as a general consensus, a higher end GPU is always going to give you more performance than a higher end CPU in gaming in particular. There is obviously a limit. Putting a 4090 with an i3 10100, whatever, 1200, 13100 is still going to give you great performance, but putting it with even a 13600K instead of a 13100, whatever, that is going to be a much better experience for you. But going from 6600 XT and a 5600X to a 6700 6800 XT, whatever, 3070 3080, you're still going to get the majority of the 3080 performance from the 5600X. Only then will you want to step up, as a general rule. So generally speaking, you're going to get a lot more performance out of upgrading a GPU, especially with a 5600X, because that's a great chip. Plenty of cores, plenty of clock speed, as it were. So yeah, not bad. Hello, Liam. Long time. I'm finding it hard to decide whether to go Intel or Ryzen for my new build. It is a pretty tough one at the moment, actually. What sort of which chips are you thinking about? Like, what are you are you talking about the i5 Ryzen 5s? Are you talking about the 7 or the 9? Where are you at, price wise, basically? I know, Joe, but always happens, doesn't it? My decrepit Gen 1 Threadripper with GIMP memory is not starting to hold back my 1600 XT yet. Fair, yeah, nice. I'm running an EVGA 2080 Super Ultra. Would I be wrong in thinking that an upgrade is pointless for 1 to 2 years, or am I very wrong? So the 2080 or 2080 Super is still a great card. Something like a 4080 is a pretty healthy performance improvement, I guess. Especially at something like 1440p, or especially at 4K. The thing that I say about upgrades in general, though, is that unless you are expressly hurting for performance, right? You're actively you're at 1080p, even better. So in that, unless you're actively you know, getting stuttering in games, you're getting solo FPS that you're not matching your monitor's refresh rate, you know, especially at low settings, whatever, right? That then is a good time to upgrade. If you're not experiencing that, if you're happy playing the games that you're playing on the settings you're playing them at, and you're not really bothered that it's not absolute maximum ultra, then you probably don't actually need to upgrade. So yeah, it depends where you're at, but I would still say a 2080 Super is a perfectly adequate card. I rage quit before any GPU problems. Fair play. Was thinking a 13600K, but the upgrade path just isn't there. Yeah, that's kind of the thing with Intel, is that we don't have a good backlog of history to show that they are actually going to support that platform in any way. You know, as their sort of MO goes, this Z790 and whatever the B and H boards will be, those are potentially the end of the line for this socket, and then they're going to move on to another one. I've generally heard the idea that they're going to support this platform for a little bit longer. It might be 3 or maybe 4 generations, but I kind of doubt that we're going to see much more in terms of like that many more cores, that much more clock speed, that much more IPC with this like package layout. So I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see, obviously, but obviously with AMD, you can be certain that they are going to support this lineup for another multiple generations down the line. And so if you were to buy an AMD chip today, even if it was the 6-core or whatever, you could be relatively certain that with some BIOS updates, you're probably going to be able to drop a 8th or 9th, possibly 10th gen chip in, and still, you know, with the same board. Maybe, actually, no, with the new boards with the same RAM, actually. RAM doesn't mean the truck, right? Not quite, no. That would be random access memory. Joe, I'm running a 2600K, 16 gigs of RAM, and a GT 555M as my only system at the minute. Nice. Ouch. Exactly. Yeah. Where am I at? I still have i7-8060 in one of my rigs with a new SSD to give it some new life. Still good for an NAS system. There. Actually, my NAS is a 2nd gen Threadripper, so I mean it's not quite the same thing as a 1060, but or 860, but you know, similar. Absolutely, I have a delidded 3770K sitting in my plastic case behind me. Nice. Going into a computer shop and asking for a Dodge Ram would be pretty funny. It would actually. Where am I at? What's your favorite upgrade you've done to your personal rig? Good question. I actually don't upgrade my personal rig very much because it's my work machine. It's what I edit, well, stream this on, edit all my videos, write all the software, all that sort of stuff. And so I care more about it being a stable platform than I do, you know, the absolute perfect, you know, performance, whatever. I used a 6900 XT for a while, but it especially in Premiere, was causing some very interesting crashes. I mean, to make it clear, I still have plenty of very interesting crashes in Premiere with the NVIDIA card I have in there now, but they're just different. I know how to deal with these ones. So yeah, I've swapped back to a 3070 Ti for now. But what has been your favorite upgrade ever? This might be a weird one, but my Valve Index. I don't use it all that often. It's technically not really an upgrade; it's an accessory, but I'm gonna count it because the touch controllers are just fantastic. They do every finger tracking, so when you have them on, when you go to grip, it will track your, every single finger, your touch sensor, including on the trackpad and on the joystick, which is insane. And then the triggers also work as both touch so when you go to grab something and you grab on, and something like Boneworks, you actively grab something to move it around, which is way better than just pressing a button or squeezing the Vive's side buttons. Like, this feels a lot more like I'm actually grabbing something. It's not quite, the full, holodeck experience, but it's pretty great. The headset is fantastic. It tracks incredibly well. The fact that it's a single, relatively light wire makes it a very good experience. And the lighthouses that you can just see the wire snaking up to that one. And the resolution per eye is great, and it's 144 hertz as well, so nice and smooth. I also actually really like the built-in speakers on it. The speakers that sort of hang down. They sound great, but they still give you a little bit of spatial awareness, which is better than putting headphones on. And I found with the Vive, it really just kind of digs into your head, whereas the Index has a full sort of headband, so it rests quite nicely. And if I wasn't quite as disabled, I could happily play, with the Vive for ages. But yeah. What's everyone else's? I guess my best upgrade was also an SSD, specifically the 768 KB of SRAM expansion for the Toshiba T1000. Nice. Definitely from SSD to HDD. That's a pretty good. I remember that switch over, and it was pretty fantastic. So yeah. The chair. My chair was the best upgrade. That's a very good one. Not one that many people think about. First time upgrade from a 5400 RPM drive to a Velociraptor drive, then again from that to an SSD is my favorite. Oh, those Velociraptor drives. The 2.5-inch drive with a 3.5-inch drive worth of heatsink that ran it. Was it 10? Well, there was 10,000 and 15,000 RPM versions, I think, weren't there? But yeah, I remember those. I don't think I ever had one, but yeah. I remember finally having a mouse that I didn't have to soak its balls every week. If you're old enough to remember that, enjoy your pension fund. The Raptor was 10k, the Velociraptor was 15k. That was it. Essentialist, is that the real TechteamGB? In the flesh. My WMR controller has a side button. It's so terrible. Yeah, the Index speakers aren't headphones, so you don't have any issues with stuff like Pina gain. Also repping the Twitch side today. Nice. Oh dear. 15,000 RPM SCSI drives were loud. Yeah. Definitely. Mine was the H135 to H175. I get the co-pilot seat. I get the co-pilot's seat to a rig tomorrow morning. Exciting. Nice. Enjoy, I think. I've sprouted 7 grey hair since I started talking about older tech. I think Windows tablet PCs gave a grand example of the quality baseline from Microsoft. Remove the whole keyboard except Control Alt Delete. Yeah, it's kind of necessary. Yeah, I don't know that I would use a Windows tablet much. I've reviewed a couple over the years, actually, including a like gaming tablet from Asus. I think that was earlier this year, actually. Yeah, that was a weird one. Thank you, Essentialist. Bone Lab slash Boneworks pickup system is so awkward. Well, that's because it was designed for these. And if you bought a Vive, you could immediately upgrade to these. Although, admittedly, the price you paid for your headset is less than like one of these controllers, so I really can't blame you. I paid €100 for it. I know that it's less than one of these on their own. I know because I had to buy one of these because my controller started drifting and the no keyboard detected, press F1 to continue. Well, that's technically American Megatrend's fault, not Windows. But yes, I missed the floppy disk noise when the computer turns back on in 1988. I was one, so I don't miss that noise. Hi Jim, looking for advice regarding large capacity SSDs. Would you consider using drives that are not recognized brands such as Samsung, Crucial, WD, and the like? Seeing value on AliExpress for unknowns. So there are a relatively few number of manufacturers who actually produce NAND flash at all. So you generally aren't going too far wrong with a non-name brand. The problem that I would have is that, one, the majority of especially ultra cheap, even large capacity drives often don't come with a DRAM cache, which is a pain. This is a very good point. So I was getting to that. The other major point is that, especially for the insanely good deals, like you're looking at a 2, 3, 6 terabyte, SSD that's $50 or $100, whatever. The majority of those, if you take them apart, are falsely reporting their capacity, which is a bit of a problem. Yeah. So the other thing that I would say is that the more non-name brand you go, the less certain you could be of the data security. So if you already have a NAS or whatever, you already have all the data backed up, like everything that goes onto those drives is a copy of data that you have on mechanical drive somewhere else or cloud backed up or something like that, then sure, I could maybe see taking the risk. Although I would still argue that, especially if you're using it for any level of work usage, the downtime from those drives failing and the hassle of trying to go set them up is likely more than the cost of a fancier drive, whatever. So yeah, I would personally, like, a non-name brand like Sabrent, let's say, I would potentially say that is a perfectly valid choice. But if you're going with an AliExpress find, I would say that's more risky. Especially because if it is something like AliExpress, you can't easily verify the legitimacy. At least on Amazon, you have a slight bit more of a chance of finding if something is legitimate or not. Mostly by the fact that other people will have reviewed it, and as long as they're not, deleting any non-fake reviews, you know, you might actually have a chance of finding something. Sabrent is also an American company. That's true. I was more giving an example of a non-major brand that you could still trust. And Sabrent was the first one that came to mind. But yeah. Hello, Chris. How you doing? How's things? CMOS battery sounds more like a repair than an upgrade, or was your machine expected to operate without one? Is that a reply to someone? At one point, my favorite upgrade was new CMOS battery. Does that count? And then CMOS battery sounds more like a repair. Yeah, no, it does need one. I found that out because most of the old boards that I try and use, their CMOS batteries are dead, and that's a problem because they don't work anymore. But yeah, more predictable than Wish. Always fake. Not sure if that's a good thing or not. Back in the day, with Morpheus and LimeWire downloading at 14 kilobits per second, a song will take a very long time, but I was amazed that it could still do it. Yeah. I had a Nokia phone that had Bluetooth, but also infrared. It was so slow and stupid. I remember using the internet via discs with free trials. Plus, I get the kick of being on the internet when my mum wanted to use the phone. Nice. I always had at least ADSL, if not VDSL. But I do remember many a time trying to do a game download or whatever, or a game update or whatever. I'd literally take my PC to my friend's house because it was faster, because he had, you know, Virgin Fiber or whatever, 80 meg fiber, and that was so sweet. And now I've got gigabit. Oh dear. Comes down to PCB and NAND flash. Go with a better controller and warranty. True. Has anyone ever found a controller that doesn't drift? Yes. So the reason that they do drift, I don't think I have any out, but basically, joysticks are just two potentiometers. With as you push them forward, that turns one potentiometer, and as you push them sideways, that turns the other potentiometer. And those potentiometers get dust in them, they get, you know, grease in them, and they just generally wear out anyway. And so what happens is those potentiometers start giving off incorrect readings, and the controller thinks that that's, you know, you are moving the stick, and therefore it should, you know, do an input. The thing is that if you use a Hall effect sensor, which is you basically put a magnet and a Hall effect sensor, and the magnet can detect the Hall effect sensor can detect not only the magnet's sort of strength, but its effectively distance from it. And so as you're, you know, wiping it away or whatever, it can tell the distance. But there's no physical contact. There's nothing to wear out. There's nothing to, you know, if you could, not saying you should, but hypothetically, you can, you know, douse the thing in lard and it may still work. No guarantees, but you know, with a standard potentiometer based joystick, it will break. But with a Hall effect sensor one, that's fine. You can buy Hall effect sensor joysticks for the Steam Deck, which is great. The unfortunate thing is that the Steam Deck is the only device in the world that I know of right now that has easily serviceable and replaceable joysticks. Everything else, including the damn Valve Index controllers, the joystick is soldered to the main PCB, and if you want to replace it, you have to be able to desolder the entire joystick, and I couldn't, and I have 2 soldering stations. So yeah. There's a GPD that has Hall effect sticks too, and they've been replaceable too. Ah, fantastic! Even better. So that would be the one of the technically the Steam Deck. You would call the Steam Deck a competitor to the GPD and Aya, like the Aya Neo. But yeah, nice. How can they all be terrible if they use the same controller and NAND flash? So the main problem is that they don't all use the same controller and NAND flash. The majority of them do, but the really terrible ones will use very, very subpar controllers and NAND flash. So that would be the main differentiator, you might say. The GPD Win 4 is quite Steam Deck-like. Nice. I need a new stick on my Xbox Elite controller. It's not drifting, it's just gone floppy. Ah. That's probably one of the springs or rubber bands or whatever inside then. And is that 2 people now? Where's the other one? It's gone missing, but someone else said to steer clear of... Oh no, it was just Essentialist twice. Steer clear of Kingston and SanDisk SSDs, they're terrible. So SanDisk are WD. Kingston... Yeah, I've had 2 Kingston SSDs die. So yeah. Well, actually, I should say, they're Kingston's budget line. They're like A400 or something. Those drives, but I have a KC 2000 1TB in my Unraid NAS, works flawlessly, and I've been using a KC 2500 1TB as my testing SSD for a year or 2 now, and again, works flawlessly, no issues. So their like KC line is fine. Their A line. Remember OCZ? I wonder what happened to them. So OCC was bought by Toshiba, I think, if I remember rightly. Toshiba sold their NAND division, I think. Because I have a Toshiba SSD, the N300 or something, or can't remember now actually. But I think there's a new company. Is it Kioxia? I think it's Kioxia. Yes, it is. It's they spun it off to Kioxia, which I'm actually I use their drives, and I'm I am so I'm actually considering buying a Steam Deck, and I'm going to stick the BG4, their one chip 2230 1TB SSD, in the Steam Deck. Yeah. Toshiba's storage was the former IBM division, which is now spun off to Kioxia. That's it. But I think OCZ is also I think OCC was bought by Toshiba, if I remember rightly. I could be wrong. That's what's up here. Can you upgrade the SSD on the Steam Deck? On the cheapest Steam Deck then? Yes, so the whole 64 gig eMMC thing it's just a really slow M.2 SSD. Just a really slow, obviously 64 gig M.2 SSD. So there's no major difference between the 64 and 256. The 512 gets you the sort of matte etched glass and a fancier case that I actually like the standard one, the look of better. So I'm thinking the 64 gig is the better option for me. especially because it's £110 cheaper, and I already have 3 BG4s. So yeah. Tech company acquisitions are an ever-growing, confusing mess, slightly worse than genealogy. Yeah, yeah. Trying to keep track of the wacky chairs is not fun. I appear to have a hole in my finger. Not into consoles after NES, but when upgrading the Steam Deck, mind the ribbon cables. I know you know, but it doesn't hurt reminding. Yes, yeah, yeah. Um, I'd buy the 64 gig deck, new SSD, and buy the fancier screen you get with the 512 gig off the iFixit site and replace it. That's true. You could certainly do that. Is the parts for the Steam Deck live on iFixit already? I know they're obviously doing a partnership with it, but is that live? Like something? Can you go to the site and buy parts now? And if so, how much is the fancier screen? I used a couple of Kingston A drives in a cheap build, working fine without problems. I stay away from cheap drives from Intenso and MTech. They're getting slow after 30 gigabytes of copy. Interesting. So I do have a couple of the Kingston A drives in use, mostly as my car diagnostic laptop boot drive. So it does work fine enough, but I don't trust it, if that makes sense. I wouldn't leave data on them that I didn't have a copy of. I mean, you probably shouldn't do that anyway, realistically, but you know, there's levels of trust that you have in drives, and that ain't it. January 2014, Toshiba completed its acquisition of OCZ. Yes, so cool. I remember. I'm not keen on ribbon cables, to put it lightly. I'm not really either. I haven't broken many, but I have broken enough to be annoyed. The cheapest LG OLEDs are around 1K, so one of them, and they've been live for months. Parts have been live for months. Nice, fair. Spent about 75 quid taking my Volvo from empty to full this evening, 45 litres of fuel. Nice. I'm very happy that the price of fuel is coming back down. I broke a ribbon cable trying to IPS mod a Game Boy Advance. That was pain. Ouch. Yeah. I still have my Game Boy Advance upstairs. I haven't used it, but I do. Once Dad repaired a broken ribbon cable, was to the magnetic head and the floppy drive, and had been guillotined by the dust shield of the 3.5-inch floppy. Ouch. And a few years, 1 litre will be £75. God, don't say that. I mean, you're right, but God. No, I think it'll be a few more years for that, yeah. That was Costco prices of 158.9 per litre of diesel. That's actually pretty cheap for diesel, so that's good. Nice. Andy and his gas guzzling V6. Yeah. It's fun though, isn't it? Hey, I don't drive it enough to care. Is the 13600K with the E-cores off faster than the 7600X? Are you talking about for gaming or for CPU specific tasks? Because if you say for gaming, well, one, you should probably just wait for the 13400 F or whatever that will inevitably be available. because that will likely be what do you call it? Basically just the 13600K, but without any E-cores, I assume. So yeah, I would say probably wait for that, but without the E-cores off and in all-core performance, like in rendering or whatever, I think the answer is no. I think it's slower. I could be wrong. I have tested those actually. Do I have E-core performance? Yes. Give me a sec. I'm looking at my data. So I don't know that I have 7600 data around, but 5600X, that's that one. E-cores. It was a decent bit faster than the. Two secs, and oh, it's actually a pretty good tie, if not slightly faster. 13 6 400F whatever is Alder Lake though. So the 13400 doesn't exist yet. That will be Raptor Lake or whatever the newer one is. Yeah, Raptor Lake. The 12400 is Alder Lake. But that's not out yet. Although the 13.1 isn't available yet. But yeah. So it looks like the 13600K with just the P cores is about the same, if not slightly faster, than a 7600X with all its cores in multi-threaded. Did you see the lines waiting for Tesla chargers over Christmas? I did. Well, I saw, Anne's screenshot, but I did. Which is, I guess, it's kind of a nice change from the queues for the petrol pumps that I know a lot of people were quite smug about earlier this year. So, I wasn't smug then, and I'm not smug now. But it's kind of funny. Both. No, upcoming 13400. Well, there won't be a K that they don't do 13400Ks, but 13400 doesn't use Raptor Lake cores, and it also comes with E cores according to leaks. So I would be quite surprised if that's the case. I would see them to have no need to do that. But I mean, fair. We will see. I don't think you'll have to wait very long, to be honest. I wonder how many of that's going to be recovered while waiting. So generally speaking, most Tesla owners wouldn't turn up to a charger with 0% and like limping it in. You generally plan the journey with a bit of contingency, and in fact the Google Maps or whatever that's built into the sat nav that has all of the chargers mapped out for where you would need to stop. It will plan what the battery is going to be at when you get there. And as far as I'm aware, it's generally pretty good at doing that. So I would expect that the majority of them had probably not enough to, like continue their journey or whatever, or like drive to the next one, but plenty of time to just sit and wait, or plenty of energy to sit and wait, as it were. The problem that's the bottleneck for electric cars in terms of like, you know, mass events like Christmas, whatever, where like everybody is kind of traveling. The the fact that not only there aren't enough chargers, you know, in motorway services, whatever, but the fact that you're at a charger for a decent length of time. It's not like a petrol pump where, well, sure, motorway services only has 8 pumps, 10 pumps, 12 pumps, whatever, but you're only at one of those petrol pumps for 5 minutes at most. So you are, you know, relatively quick in and out. Whereas if you have a oh, see you, Chris. Enjoy. Happy New Year. Whereas you know, on the electric car front, because you're there for 20 minutes, half an hour to charge the car up, and because there's only, you know, 5, 10, maybe 8 at most, the second that you have more than 8 cars wanting to charge at once, well, you're going to be waiting a long time, and then the queue starts building up, and then you get, you know, what we were seeing at the, you know, over the weekend, I suppose. So yeah, it's not that big a deal, but definitely not ideal. You have to wonder, Alex. I'm new. Hello. Laptop cooling tips. So the biggest one is make sure that the laptop is well ventilated, ideally on a stand or something, so that it has more sort of floor space to draw in air from. That's probably the biggest help that you can give a laptop. Other than that, you can try different performance modes if your laptop has that available. Depending on how, you know, in depth you want to go, you can try taking the laptop apart and replacing the thermal paste that's inside, as the thermal paste that comes stock is often nowhere near kind of premium quality. So buying some premium stuff should mean that you get arguably better performance out of it, and certainly better thermals, and especially these days, the lower the temperature you can get, the more it can boost, and therefore the better performance you get. So yeah, I would say keep it up, and you know, that's probably about it, really. The best marketing would be Ford targeting stoners out there and sell a vehicle called the 20. Maybe even buy a Ford 20. Ha 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 ha. Does Ryzen 7000 use less power and idle if the iGPU is turned off? Good question. If you don't have any displays connected, I doubt it's using that much power, if at all. In fact, it might even be in standby because there's no display connected. So it's probably fine. I borrowed a friend's Vauxhall E Vivaro on Christmas Eve to fit everybody in for our travels. Took 1 hour and 24 minutes to charge on a fast charger too. Was tedious to say the least. Ouch. That's a little while, especially for what is going to be a relatively small battery in there. Hint number 2, do not spend money on overpriced laptop stands with fans. They basically do nothing, just pick it up from the fluffy bed cover. Yes. A standard stand, just a basic stand that literally just lifts it up a little bit to give more room for fresh air to come in, is plenty. In fact, ironically, most of the laptop stands that are out there that have fans in them are actually more restrictive because they're basically just a flat plate with, you know, relatively small holes in it. And then you have a fan that is blocking the majority of the airflow and certainly not doing anything to push air in. So yeah, just a basic stand that, you know, I have one that's quite nice, that's just 2 sort of strips that just you can gently lift like just slightly, is fine. Flat surface, a Burker binder might be better. So that's better than leaving it on like on your bed sheets or whatever, or like on your lap. But I did a video on it a while ago now, to be honest, that showed a slight improvement in temperatures with elevation even on a desk. So yeah. I sometimes just put a pencil under the back edge to lift it up from the table. Exactly. I'm not saying this needs to be like, you know, like flat at you, you know, whatever. It just enough off the surface to give a little bit of lift to it, and it's fine. By the way, what's the weird noise in the background behind your music? Your mic's noise gate. It's probably the music that's playing incredibly quietly. Too loud? How's that? It might have been a sound effect that snuck into the what do you call it, playlist, because I don't recognize one of them in there, and it looks too short. In fact, I don't recognize two of them in there. I was watching the miles go down as I was going. It was minus degrees and fully loaded. It went down scarily fast. It was not particularly was not a particularly confident journey. Yeah. So the weird thing about EVs is that with a you know, petrol car, diesel car, whatever, I have never really been too worried about fuel. I've been worried about fuel in the sense that, like, I'm driving on the motorway and I don't want to pay motorway prices for petrol, right? Because it's heinously expensive compared to just like filling up at home or when you get there. And I generally don't drive anywhere that's far enough to mean that I need to fill up on the way. As long as I, you know, plan it sensibly, I can generally drive somewhere, you know, and as long as I fill it beforehand, it's fine. But otherwise, I was gonna say, but with an electric car, I'm a lot more conscious of the range, and I'm a lot more conscious of every action that you do determines the range quite considerably. You know, like when you floor out the lights or whatever, you know, have the AC or the heater on and whatever, all of those things feel like they make a lot bigger of a difference to you know, the range and than in an internal combustion engine car. I mean, especially with like in winter, the heat that's coming off of the engine, like from, you know, my V6, that's all waste heat anyway. That's all waste energy. So using that to heat us is an extra benefit that you get from it. You're right. It doesn't really matter that the it's producing the waste heat, because we're just making use of it. And it doesn't matter how high you turn the heat on, because all you're doing is venting more of the heat that would just be leaving via the radiator into the cabin instead, and making more use of it. Whereas in an electric car, because there is no waste heat, or there's a lot less waste heat, you have to use what's basically an induction heater or maybe a heat pump to heat the cabin, and that is a lot more energy intensive, and it uses a lot of your range basically. So that's a bit of a detracting factor at the moment. I still feel like EVs are kind of, this is maybe like Gen 2 of EVs, you know, the Gen 1 was like the first gen Nissan Leaf, that sort of thing. We now have sort of second gen EVs, things like the Tesla Model 3 and, you know, a lot of the vehicles from all the different manufacturers, but I still feel like there needs to be a slightly further revision before it's going to be like you could legitimately anyone could buy an EV and be happy with it. I don't know what needs to be done. I'm not. I can't propose solutions. I can only complain. But yeah. Anyway, I think I will leave it there. It's slightly longer than. Are you not counting the Sinclair? That was a Gen 0. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for sticking around this year. I hope you have a great New Year's, and we will see you all on Tuesday for a video, and then stream on Thursday as always. So yeah, have a great week and have a happy New Year, and I will see you all in 2023. Weird to say. Catch you guys later. Bye.